while waiters and dishwashers bustled around him, hastily removing plates, saucers, cups, glasses, and utensils from the table, and adjusting the black table decorations that awkwardly announced that someone was over 40, Frank Walker sat alone on one end of the long table where he and the other partygoers had just finished a sumptuous dinner. A little further away from him sat another couple, also busy with their phones. And at the opposite end of the table, several people stood in a circle, talking and laughing. But other than Frank and those few stragglers, the dinner table was empty, as the rest of the party went out to use the restroom, make phone calls, or just stretch their legs before dessert after dinner drinks and coffee were served, and the party resumed. But Frank was not talking on the phone at that moment. He wasn't thinking about the party or the wonderful dinner they had just finished. And I certainly didn't think about the birthday cake that the waiters would soon bring to the table. Instead, Frank was brooding over the handwritten note the waiter had handed him. "Be on the lookout. Marc Lavaliere is going to steal your wife, and beware of the 2 men with him. They will take you away if you try to stop him." He plays his wife-stealing game here very often. Looks like you were the victim of his game this week. There is nothing we can do except warn you and advise that you and your wife leave immediately. I'm sorry to trouble you. The note was unsigned, but it was clear between the lines that it came from the management of the restaurant and the hall. The warning was ominous, and after reading the note and then reading it again, he turned his attention to his wife, who was once again on the dance floor with Marc Lavaliere. And what bothered him now was that the second time they moved to the end of the dance floor and practically disappeared from his sight. But he caught a glimpse of them, and that was enough to understand that Lavaliere was holding his wife very tightly, and she seemed to be enjoying what was happening. Since they arrived at the party, Marc Lavaliere has repeatedly approached their table and asked his wife to dance. Frank didn't mind, and Brooke accepted his invitations every time. But now Frank was tired of Lavaliere dancing with his wife, and this note finally confirmed his decision to go out onto the dance floor and wedge himself between them. But he had hardly risen from his chair when the song ended, and he saw Lavaliere and Brooke leave the dance floor. Relieved that he wouldn't have to make a fuss, Frank sat back down and waited, while Lavaliere escorted his wife back to the table. But this time, instead of bringing her back to the birthday party, they headed to Mark's table, where they stood and talked for a few minutes. Frank watched them. A few minutes later, Lavaliere walked away from Brooke and his 2 friends, and it appeared to Frank that Lavaliere was leaving the restaurant and the lounge. As Lavaliere headed toward the exit, Brooke dispassionately walked up to Frank, picked up her purse, told him she was going to the restroom, and then turned and walked away. But after taking a couple of steps, she stopped, turned around, and with an unusual expression on her face, told Frank that she loved him and would see him later. Then she turned and continued walking towards the toilets. As Frank watched his wife move through the restaurant toward the hallway where the restrooms were located, Frank realized that there was something wrong with the way she said she was going to the restroom. And what seemed strange was the way she stopped and told him that she loved him and would see him later. Her behavior was not that of someone going to the toilet. Instead, she looked and acted like someone who was leaving to do something other than just go to the bathroom. Frank got up from the table and followed her. He had not taken more than a few steps when Lavaliere's 2 companions, as the note warned, rose from the table and intercepted him. Frank Walker made a living fixing situations for organizations. He worked for corporations. Almost every week he would board a plane and fly to some other country, where he would clean up businesses and other types of organizations that had gone off the rails and found themselves in some upside-down administrative, operational, or financial situation. Almost every day, Frank dealt with selfish and domineering senior executives, officers, directors, and senior managers who achieved their positions through politics, bribery, lies, deceit, bullying, and intimidation. Almost every day, Frank had to deal with intransigent managers and executives who blackmailed and terrorized workers and prided themselves on being simply ruthless. When Frank entered these situations to make changes that impacted people's lives and livelihoods, he often encountered opposition, intimidation, and even threats. He was once threatened by a drug cartel because he was working on a project to move an American manufacturer from Mexico back to the States. Frank did not back down from their threats, and his client moved to Alabama. Frank was good at his job and excelled in situations where he was threatened. Most of all, he liked to fight selfish, power-hungry, ruthless, and dangerous people. Essentially, it was his game. So when Marc Lavaliere's large and athletic but young and naive comrades confronted him, it only took Frank a few moments to turn the situation around so that they were the ones who felt threatened. Never in their short, young lives had anyone explained the consequences of their actions to them the way Frank had, and without a moment's hesitation, they stepped aside to let him pass. So now that Marc Lavaliere's buddies were out of the way, Frank hurried after Brooke, and when he caught up with her, she was almost at the back exit of the restaurant and lounge. "Brooke!" he shouted. Either she didn't hear or ignored it, but she didn't stop and continued to walk towards the door. Frank quickened his pace, closed the distance between them, and called out again, "Brooke, where are you going?" This time, Brooke stopped, turned to face her husband. She looked irritated and demandingly asked, "Frank, what are you doing here?" Frank looked at her and saw that there was something wrong with her behavior. She was cold to him and obviously annoyed that he caught up with her. "I'll ask you the same thing. What are you doing here?" he asked. Brooke thought for a few moments before answering. "Frank, I want," she said, but stopped mid-sentence. Frank looked into her eyes and asked again, "Where are you going?" Brooke looked away from Frank and thought, "Damn, this shouldn't have happened. He shouldn't be here." "Frank," Brooke began to speak again but stopped, because she needed to think about what she was going to tell him. She knew there was no point in lying. She had to tell him the truth. She must tell him where she is going, but it will be awkward for her and painful for Frank. Earlier that evening, Brooke met Marc Lavaliere by chance. Returning from the toilet, she passed next to Marc's table. He noticed her, stood up from the table, politely stopped her, introduced himself, and engaged in small talk with her for a few moments. Brooke then continued to her table and joined Frank and the rest of the party. A little later, when the party was in full swing, the music group came out and began their first session of the evening. Then, shortly after the band began playing, Marc Lavaliere walked up to the guests' table. Of course, everyone was delighted that a local football player and sports celebrity had stopped by. He was friendly, introduced himself, shook hands with everyone in the party, took a few selfies and signed a few autographs, and then asked Brooke to dance. Brooke was shocked and turned him down, but Marc was gentlemanly persistent. The other partygoers encouraged her, and Frank didn't say no, so she reluctantly accepted his invitation. Needless to say, Brooke was apprehensive as Marc led her from the party to the dance floor. But once on the dance floor, Brooke discovered that dancing with Marc was an experience she could never have imagined. He was young, handsome, courageous, a professional athlete, and knew how to dance. And while she danced with Marc, he touched her the way she loved to be touched. He held her the way she liked to be held. He spoke to her the way she liked to be spoken to. He said what she liked to hear. Marc won her over, and she never again refused his invitations to join him on the dance floor. And as the evening went on, after dancing a few times and becoming more comfortable with each other, her attraction to him grew stronger, and it was unmistakably a sensual attraction. Then, at the end of the evening, there came a moment when he led them across the dance floor into the shade. There he hugged her, kissed her, groped her, and said that she must, simply must, be the ideal love machine, and he must have her. He said that he refused not to accept and invited them to leave and go to his home, where in privacy and comfort they will have each other, without any prohibitions. And he vividly described to her how they would spend a night of debauchery, how he would raise her sexuality to a level of eroticism that she had never experienced before. It will only be one night, but she will remember it for the rest of her life. Brooke was under a spell. And after the dance, while having dinner with Frank and other partygoers, Brooke reflected on Marc's proposal. She felt uneasy at the thought of leaving Frank and the party and going with a virtual stranger to his home. But the thrill of spending the night with Marc Lavaliere sent chills down her spine, ran trembling, and she realized that, without a doubt, she wanted to go with him. But Brooke had a dilemma. She was always faithful to Frank. I never thought about cheating in their marriage. But this does not mean that handsome and attractive men never attracted her attention. Of course, they did. Human nature is such that it is attracted to trophy specimens of the opposite sex, and perhaps the same sex. But for Brooke, it was always just looks and never touches. Until tonight. Tonight she wanted to touch Mark, and she wanted Mark to touch her. But obviously that meant she would be unfaithful to Frank. He will break his vows. She would betray his trust in her. So she needed to justify what she was going to do. She needed a compelling justification for her betrayal. A rationale she could live with tonight and beyond, and which she hoped Frank would accept as best he could. So she decided that she would go with Mark because he was special. He is not an ordinary man. Rather, he is a professional athlete, a star player, and a local and national sports celebrity. But even more, according to Brooke, he is courteous and gallant. Every time he took her to the dance floor and held her in his arms, she was smitten by his charm. For Brooke, Marc Lavaliere was what women call the ultimate dream. He was the kind of man that women fantasize about. They wrote about him in romantic novels, and this dream man was offering Brooke the amorous experience of her life, and she would be a fool not to accept. And she reasoned that Frank would also see this as the opportunity of a lifetime for her. And she will understand why, for this one time, he should look the other way and allow her to have a sexual experience with this special man. Of course, he will be angry, but he will accept it because he is not just her husband. He is her best friend and soulmate, and wants her to have this special experience with Mark. Brooke was pleased with her thoughts. Now she had a plausible rationale she could live with, and hopefully Frank could live with it too. But honestly, deep down in her mind, Brooke knew that the real reason she went with Mark was because of the way this young, strong, and masculine man had boldly told her that she belonged to him today, and that he was going to take her to his home and have sex with her all night until the next morning. And she decided that she would never give up such an experience, because, she reasoned, in addition to being married to Frank, she was a woman, and the woman inside her was not going to pass up the opportunity to have such an exciting sexual experience with Marc Lavaliere. So her decision was made, and when the birthday dinner was ending, the group returned to the hall and began a new session. Then, as if on cue, Marc Lavaliere walked up to the table and asked Brooke to dance again. But this time Frank was visibly annoyed and objected to the fact that he constantly asked his wife to dance, but Brooke dodged her husband's objections and agreed, saying that the orchestra was playing one of her favorite tunes and this would be her and Mark's last dance. And with that, Mark, like the gentleman he is, thanked Frank for his understanding and then took Brooke's hand and led her to the dance floor. Back in the dark shadows of the dance floor, Mark asked her if she was ready to leave. She nodded affirmatively, laughed, and said that she belonged to him. In response, Mark hugged her, kissed her, put his hand under her short cocktail dress, and felt her most intimate part. Of course, Brooke didn't protest and said she was ready for him to take her. They finished the dance and Mark led her off the dance floor to his table. There he said that he would take his car and pick it up at the back exit, located at the end of the corridor where the toilets were located. He also told her not to worry about her husband, that his teammates would deal with him. They will explain to him where she is going, that it is her choice to go with him, that she is safe, and that tomorrow he will bring her home. And he told her his friends would make sure that her husband did not interfere and certainly did not create any problems. Brooke listened to Mark and believed him, but now she stood at the back exit and was preparing to leave with him, but it was obvious that something had gone wrong in Mark's plan. Because her husband was here, he stopped her on the way out and demanded an explanation. "Brooke, I'm waiting. Tell me where you're going," Frank told her. Brooke gathered as much confidence as she could and said, "Frank, I'm going with Mark." "Are you going with Mark Lavalier?" Frank asked, showing no emotion. "Yes, I'm going with Mark. He invited me to go with him to his house," she said. Frank remained calm. "Should I go with him to his home? Why are you going to his house?" Frank walked around her and stood between Brooke and the door. "Frank, this is too complicated to explain right now. I'll call or text you later and explain exactly what I'm doing. But for now, I have to go. Mark is waiting for me. Now please let me pass," she said. Frank continued to remain calm. "No, Brooke, I won't let you pass me by, and I don't want you to call or text me after. I want you to explain to me what you are going to do right here and now," he said. Brooke moaned. "Oh, God, Frank, please, please don't make a scandal out of this." "Just let me go, and I'll explain everything later," she told him. "No, Brooke, I want you to tell me right now what you are going to do," Frank demanded in a raised voice. Upon hearing Frank's demand, Brooke became confrontational. "Frank, you are not my commander, so get out of the way and let me pass," she shouted back. "No, Brooke, you are my wife, and you are not going anywhere until you tell me what you are going to do," Frank shouted back to her. Realizing that Frank wouldn't let her leave, Brooke realized that she would have to tell him why she was leaving and what she was going to do. So she sighed in nervous frustration and began to speak. "Frank, I know this sounds terrible, and, honestly, I can't believe I'm doing this, but I'm going home with Mark and hanging out at night," and quickly added, "But, Frank, this is only for today, and tomorrow he will bring me home." Frank didn't immediately respond to Brooke's words. It took him a few moments to realize that his wife had just told him that she was going to spend the night with Lavalier, but he collected his thoughts and angrily answered her, "No, Brooke, you will not spend the night with Lavalier. You won't go to the sleepover. You want to have sex with him, don't you? Be honest with me, Brooke. That's what you're going to do, have sex with him, right?" Frank blurted out. Brooke looked at the floor and was silent. "Am I right, Brooke?" Frank demanded. Brooke continued to look at the floor and didn't say anything. "Brooke, I'm right?" he demanded again. Brooke finally answered. Yes, Frank. I'm going to have sex with Mark," she answered him. There was silence in the corridor. Finally, Brooke looked up and saw the puzzled look on her husband's face. Frank, what are you thinking?" Frank Walker was a man who was not easily surprised and certainly not easily shocked. But what his wife had just told him shook him to the core, even after reading the note that warned him that this would happen. And just for a moment he lost his composure. "What am I thinking about? I'll tell you what I'm thinking, Brooke. I think that this is simply incredible, just crazy. That's what I'm thinking about," he shouted to her. Brooke was taken aback by Frank's uncharacteristic outburst. She had never seen such a display of anger from Frank in all their time together, and she was scared. "Oh, God, Frank, I'm sorry, Brooke said, still looking at the floor. She couldn't bring herself to look him in the eye. Frank regained his composure. "Why, Brooke? Why are you doing this?" Frank demanded. Frank, I know this will seem crazy to you, but just listen." "I'm listening," he said. "Frank, probably every woman dreams of a romantic experience with a celebrity or someone rich and famous." Frank interrupted her, saying sarcastically, "Let me guess. Mark Lavalier is your Prince Charming from fairy tales. Or he's your fucking knight in shining armor." "Please, Frank, don't laugh at this. Come on, Brooke. Tell me the continuation of this tale." "Frank, this is every woman's dream. Mark is not just any guy. He is a special kind of man. He is a real man, a star and a celebrity. I want to experience what every woman dreams of. So please, Frank, please show me that you love me and that you won't mind me experiencing this," she begged her husband. Frank tried to control his emotions and cope with an incredible situation. "Okay, so tonight you go to Lavalier's house and have sex with him. And tomorrow he will bring you home, and we will just meet and continue to be a happy married couple as if this affair never happened. Is that what you want to tell me, Brooke?" Frank asked. "This is not an affair. It's just one night, and yes, tomorrow I'll be home and my dream will come true. And I will be happy, and you will be happy that you supported me and allowed me to have this experience, and we will move on," she answered. She hoped that Frank believed what she was telling him, but when she looked at him, he rolled his eyes and looked at her in a way that she couldn't believe what she was saying. Seeing the look on his face, Brooke realized that things weren't going as she had imagined. "So you throw me aside to have sex with your charming prince, who is much better than me," he said. "Damn, Brooke, it really hurts. Are you saying that I'm not special? Are you saying that I'm not a real man? No, no, no." "I didn't say that, and I didn't mean that," she exclaimed in panic. "Well, Brooke, then what did you mean?" he asked her. "Frank, you are special. You are a real man, but—" Frank interrupted her. "But I'm not a fucking professional footballer and celebrity who actually knows the secret to sexually satisfying a woman. Is that what you're telling me, Brooke?" Brooke looked at the floor. "There's more to it," she said. "Then what's the matter? Are you tired of me? Are you tired of me?" "No, no, no, Frank. You are the best." "But—" Frank interrupted her again. "I'm the best. But you still need someone else," he said. "Yes," she said, looking at the floor. "So you discovered this evening that the person you want is Marc Lavaliere?" "Yes," she said, still looking at the floor. "So you're going with Marc Lavaliere and having a fabulous night of love and sex with him?" "This is not love, not love. I do not like him. But yes, I'm going to have sex with him and have the experience that many women dream of," she said with some certainty and self-confidence. But she quickly added, "Frank, I'm not giving up on you. You are my husband, and I will never give up on you. But tonight I won't be with you, but with Marc. And I hope not. I beg you. Please understand my feelings and needs. And please, Frank, I'm begging you. Please don't make this a nasty scene," she said. Frank took a deep breath. "Why, Brooke? What makes you think that I can agree with you having sex with another man and then coming back to me like it's no big deal?" he asked. "Because you always treated me with an open heart. And he always treated my emotions, feelings, and needs with understanding and attention. And I hope that when you realize how special this night with Marc is for me, you will control your anger and handle it like a sane, experienced, sophisticated person," she told her husband. "Can I handle it? Can I handle it? Please explain to me how I should cope with the fact that tonight you will be in Marc Lavaliere's bed and he will take you. How can I handle tomorrow when he pulls up with you in his car and I find out that you two were intimate, not just once, but all night? How can I look at you, knowing that you have given yourself to another man? Tell me how I should feel about all this," he asked. "Frank, I can't answer this question. I just hope you can sort this out in your mind and we can move on with our lives. I know you're angry at me, but can't you understand how important this experience is for me?" she asked. "Brooke, what you're saying is that you're hoping I'll just suck it up and accept your affair with Lavaliere," Frank said. "This is not an affair," she screamed. "And no, Frank, I don't want you to just accept it. I ask you to consider my feelings and my needs and come to terms with it because you love me and because you are my best friend, my soulmate, and you want me to have this special experience, an experience I may never have again. Frank, this is what I want from you, honey," she told him. Frank thought for a few moments about Brooke and what she was asking him to accept. He couldn't believe that she actually thought he could handle her having sex with Lavaliere, and the more he thought about it, the more he realized that she really didn't understand the magnitude of this situation and how it would affect him and their relationship. Apparently, she had a delusional experience brought on by an evening of dancing with Lavaliere. He needed to disabuse her. "Brooke, what do you call a man whose wife has sex with another man?" he asked. Brooke thought for a moment and then answered. "Cuckold," she pronounced the word with difficulty. "That's right, Brooke. They call him a cuckold. A man whose wife is possessed by another man for pleasure. Okay, Brooke, I'm not going to become a cuck because of you and Marc Lavaliere, he said firmly. Brooke looked up at Frank, and her eyes filled with tears. So you won't let me do it? No, Brooke. I didn't say that. I didn't say I wouldn't let you go with him. I won't hold you back. You are a grown woman. You're an adult and can make your own decisions. So whether you do this or not depends not on me, but on you. If this is what you need to do, then go do it. Go with him. Give yourself to him. Let him have you. Go and experience a night of love and sex with him. I won't stand in your way. Brooke interrupted. Frank, I already told you this is not love. I do not love him. I love you, Frank. It's just sex, just sex. I have a sexual attraction to Marc. I have no romantic attraction to him. Brooke screamed. So, in your mind, you separated love and sex? Yes. Yes, Frank. I'm going to have sex with Marc because I'm attracted to him sexually, but I'm coming home to you tomorrow because I love you. You're my husband, my best friend, and my soulmate, and because we have so much more in common than just sex, she told him. Well, Brooke, I'm not going to argue with you about the difference between love and sex, but like I said, I won't stand in your way of having sex with Lavaliere. Brooke looked at Frank. Does he accept it? She thought to herself. Brooke, if this is what you want to do, then do it. But... Frank paused and thought about what he was going to tell her. But what? What? What, Frank? She begged him to tell the rest. Look at me, Brooke. Brooke raised her head, and they looked at each other eye to eye. But before you walk through that door, we will end our marriage right here and now. Brooke panicked. Shall we dissolve our marriage? What do you mean we will dissolve our marriage? She screamed. I mean, when you walk out that door, we won't be married anymore. You will no longer be my wife, and I will no longer be your husband. We will remove the rings and renounce our alliance right here and now. We'll deal with the formalities later. But as far as I understand, our marriage will be over before you walk out the door. And before Brooke could say anything, Frank quickly added, and tonight, when Lavaliere takes you, I won't be a cuckold because you won't be my wife, Frank said. Suddenly, Brooke became hysterical. No! 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 I won't do this, Frank! I won't do this! Brooke screamed. No? Well, we've agreed, Brooke. So what do you want? He asked. I don't know, she said tiredly. Nonsense, of course you know what you want. You want to sit on 2 chairs. You want to spend the night in Marc Lavaliere's bed and then come home to me, Frank told her. Brooke cried uncontrollably. You're really serious? You're serious, aren't you? If I go out with Marc for even one night, will you divorce me? Yes, he said completely seriously. Brooke's mood suddenly changed from panicked to angry as she saw her reasoning for spending the night with Marc crumble right before her eyes. Frank, do my feelings and emotions really mean so little to you that you will simply automatically dissolve our marriage because of this and not even give us a chance to sort it out and move on together? She asked. Brooke, there's nothing to deal with here. Look, understand. There are some things in life that are non-negotiable, and my wife having sex with another man is one of them. I won't agree to a deal where you have sex with Cavalier and then you come home and we just carry on with our lives as if it's no big deal. So my feelings, emotions, and needs don't mean anything to you, she said sarcastically. Brooke, just a few minutes ago you walked away and abandoned me, basically threw me aside, and without any explanation. If I hadn't caught up and stopped you, you'd now be in Marc Lavaliere's car, driving to his house for a night of sex. So obviously my feelings and emotions don't mean much to you. So why should your feelings and emotions mean anything to me? He asked her. The reality of her decision finally hit Brooke. Oh my God, Frank, I am so sorry. I just didn't think, she exclaimed. Damn it, Brooke. Don't say you didn't think because you did. But all I was thinking about was getting naked for Lavaliere and all the sexy things he was going to do to you. Brookie started crying again. And you certainly didn't think about me and that I was interested in why you left, where you went, and what you would do, he told her. Oh God, Frank, Please believe me, I didn't mean to leave you without letting you know where I went. When I got to Mark's house, I was going to write to you and explain where I am and what I'm doing." "Write to me?" "Write?" Frank asked with a laugh. "Are you saying that being in bed and having sex with La Valliere, were you going to write to me?" Frank laughed. "And what were you going to write?" "Frank, I'm sorry I left the party, but I went to Mark La Valliere's house. Today he and I will have sex, so I don't want to be at home. Good night and see you tomorrow," Frank told her sarcastically. "This is cruel," Brooke said. "Cruel?" "Brooke, it's cruel and shocking that you made a split-second decision to leave me, your husband, your best friend, and your soulmate to spend the night with a man you just met," Frank told her. Brooke cried. "And what's really cruel is that you expected me to put up with it. As if this is no big deal." "That's cruel, Brooke," Frank exclaimed. "I'm so sorry, Frank. Sorry. I just didn't think," she said. "Well, Brooke, it doesn't matter now what you thought or didn't think. And it doesn't matter what you write or don't write, because I caught up with you before you walked out the door, and now I know your intentions. And now you know my intentions. None of us need to guess anymore. Now we just need to get to the point." Brooke looked at Frank with a questioning expression on her face. "And what is this? What is the essence of the matter?" she asked. "Brooke, the point is this. Here's the door, and La Valliere is waiting for you outside." I imagine he's starting to lose patience. "This is your decision," Frank firmly told his wife of 12 years. Brooke didn't hesitate for a second. "Frank, I'm not going out that door. I'm not going to leave you for him. I'm not going to give up our life together for his sake." "I'm not that stupid," Brooke told him. Frank studied her. "Well, 15 minutes ago you were determined to walk out that door and go with him. So what has changed, or has anything changed other than the fact that you don't want to get a divorce?" Frank asked. "Well, I mean, can I believe that your frantic desire to have sex with La Valliere has suddenly disappeared? Or are you going to wait until next week when I'm in Europe and then sleep with him?" "No! Why do you think so?" Brooke screamed. "Are you going to cheat on me behind my back?" he asked. "No, no, no! I never cheated on you. I would never cheat on you. I love you," she shouted. "Well, just tonight, you were going to cheat on me. If I hadn't stopped you, you would have cheated on me right now." For the second time in just a few minutes, reality hit Brooke right between the eyes, and she found herself face to face with what she had decided to do to Mark. "Oh my God, no, no, no! What was I thinking?" she shouted. "So, what happened?" he asked. "Don't know. I don't know, Frank. I'm so confused. I don't know what came over me that I decided that I could go with Mark and it wouldn't be a sin and you wouldn't mind," she said. Frank listened to her, but she saw that he had a skeptical expression on his face. She had to tell him all this. "Honestly, Frank, I don't know what came over me. It all started from the moment Mark came up to our table and asked me to dance. Pulling me onto the dance floor, he attacked me so quickly and so boldly. He constantly told me how much he wanted me and how much I would enjoy sex with him. Then he started hugging me tightly. Then he started kissing me. Then he started feeling me up. And Frank, I didn't stop him. I didn't stop him. Didn't stop him," she said, crying. "So you encouraged him?" Frank said. Yes, I encouraged him." "I'm so sorry, Frank," she cried. "Then I convinced myself that going with him was the right thing to do. And then I convinced myself that you would understand and wouldn't mind if I went with him. All I can say is that I realize I really messed up and I'm so sorry." "I'm so sorry," she cried. Frank listened to Brooke and at the same time thought about the note the waiter gave him. Frank reached into his pocket and pulled it out. "Here, read this," he said. Brooke took the note, read it, and then looked at Frank. "Where did you get it? Is she real?" "The waiter slipped it to me during dinner," he told her. "Is this just a game he plays?" asked Brooke. "That's what it says here." Brooke was incredulous after reading the note. "I can't believe it. I just can't believe it," she said. "Brooke, can you believe it? He picked you out of the crowd and actually seduced you. He manipulated you and fooled you," Frank said. Brooke continued to read the note over and over again. "What he did to me was just a game. Yes. Is everything he told me just a game? Yes, Brooke. It's just a game he plays. Brooke was destroyed. It began to dawn on her that she was simply the prize for this week's game. A female trophy specimen to satisfy Lavaliere's sexual appetite for married women. Last week, it could have been a woman named Debbie. The next one is a woman named Sandy. But this week, it's Brooke. It was she who took the bait and fell for Mark's game. And she felt a sickening feeling as she realized that she had put her marriage at risk. "Frank, I'm sick," she said, turned and ran away from him to the toilet. She vomited several times and then went to the sink to wash her hands and face. Looking at herself in the mirror, she saw that she was in complete disarray, just like this whole damn evening. Brooke came out of the restroom and saw Frank still standing in front of the exit. She rushed to him and hugged him. "Oh God, Frank, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. Forgive me for being so stupid and gullible," she asked through tears. Frank looked at her and then said, "Brooke, Lavaliere took you by surprise. Then he seduced you to the point where you believed you could have sex with him and there would be no consequences. That I wouldn't mind if you had a one-night stand with him. But now you have found out the opposite. Now you know. So promise us that we will never be in this situation again." On his way to the door, Frank noticed that two of Lavaliere's teammates were still sitting. They watched him and Brooke. "Brooke, wait here. I need to talk to Lavaliere's friends." "Frank, please give it up. We don't need any more trouble," Brooke told Frank. "No, Brooke, I'm not going to leave this just like that." And with that, Frank left Brooke standing alone and walked over to Lavaliere's teammates. "Sir, we don't want any problems," one of his teammates said. "Okay, then do what I tell you. Tell your buddy Lavaliere that he lost the game today. Tell him he is a loser. Tell him Frank Walker is going to spread the word around the world that Mark Lavaliere is a loser." Both of Lavaliere's teammates stared at Frank with stunned expressions. "Sir, we can't tell him this. He'll kill us both." "Gentlemen, do you want to deal with me or him?" Frank asked them. "Sir, we don't want any problems with you." "Good choice. Now one of you will take the phone and tell him what I said. Do it now. And tell him that when I go out that door, it's better for him not to shine anywhere." One of the men picked up the phone, dialed Lavaliere's number, and told him what Frank had said. Frank couldn't hear the conversation, but he realized that Lavaliere was beside himself with anger because his friend told him not to do anything stupid. And then the call stopped. "What did he say?" Frank asked. "He said he would kill you." "Okay," Frank answered. "Oh God, Frank, I promise you that after all this I will never let a man near me again," she said. Frank looked at her for a moment and then said, "Okay, and when we go out like we did tonight, I'll try to help you keep that promise. I should have intervened before Lavaliere got you into this state, but I didn't do it. So this is my fault, just like yours. And it's also Lavaliere's fault, because he shouldn't have sought out and seduced married women. So, Brooke, I forgive you and myself, but I don't forgive Lavaliere, and I'll deal with him later." "Oh God, Frank, thank you for your understanding. But Frank, please just forget Mark. We'll never see him again, and he's not worth the trouble you might face," she said. After this remark, Frank looked at Brooke and thought it was strange that she didn't want Mark to suffer any consequences. In the end, Lavaliere almost robbed Brooke of her marriage. Why wouldn't she want him to feel some discomfort for trapping her in his game? "I'll think about it," he told her. Frank then asked, "Do you want to go back to the party?" "No, Frank. Let's go home." "Sure?" "Yes, please, let's just go home," Brooke exclaimed. Frank and Brooke walked back down the hallway and entered the restaurant. And with that, Frank left his two teammates, picked up Brooke, and they left the restaurant and the lounge. On the street, Frank gave the parking ticket to the valet, and then they, along with several other couples, waited for their car to be picked up. While they were waiting, an SUV roared up to them, braked in front of them, and the passenger side window rolled down. An angry Mark Lavaliere sat inside the SUV. "Come on, Brooke, you said you wanted to come with me, so come on, get in the car," Mark shouted. "She won't go with you, Lavaliere," Frank told him. "I'm not talking to you, old man," Mark shouted back to Frank. "Come on, Brooke, let's go." "No, Mark, I can't go with you tonight," Brooke answered him. "Brooke, come here and get in the car. Let's go now," Mark Brooke shouted. "La Valliere, she won't go with you." "You lost the game. You're a loser. Now get out of here, loser, and leave us alone," Frank told Mark. Being told he was a loser in front of a group of people who were most likely his fans instantly infuriated Mark. "I'll show you who the loser is, you piece of shit," Mark shouted, getting out of his SUV. Frank asked the people waiting for their cars to move away because the situation could become dangerous. He then moved toward the front of the SUV on the driver's side, where he encountered La Valliere brandishing a large semi-automatic handgun. La Valliere was beside himself with rage. He lost Brooke, and now he's been publicly humiliated. Frank studied La Valliere, and his behavior reminded him of a scene in the Masai Mara in Kenya when he watched a lion and hyenas fight over the lion's prey. Like that lion, La Valliere stalked Brooke for hours and then took over her body, mind, and soul. She belonged to him, and he was going to take her to his house to devour her for his sexual pleasure. But before that happened, Frank intervened and snatched it from him. Now La Valliere, like a lion, had only one thing on his mind: to get her back, and he did not care what he had to do to achieve this, even if it meant killing Frank Walker. "Brooke will come with me, and if you try to stop her, I will kill you," La Valliere shouted. Frank took a few steps back and was now standing no more than 3 meters from Mark. His arms were raised, palms up, and his fingers extended in a non-aggressive, non-escalatory, but self-defensive manner. "Put the gun down," Frank said. "Bullshit, old man. You ruin my game and I'll kill you." "Put the gun down before you get into more trouble," Frank said in a calm, firm voice. "I'll show you who's in trouble, old man." "I'll kill you and then I'll fuck your wife," Mark shouted and pointed the gun in Frank's direction. La Valliere was so engrossed in his ranting and rage that he didn't notice Frank lower his right hand and put it in his pants pocket. In this pocket, Frank carried a Sig Sauer micro-compact semi-automatic pistol. It was loaded with 8 rounds of 9mm critical defense ammunition. 1 cartridge is in the chamber, and 7 cartridges are in the magazine. Frank was licensed to carry a Sig pistol and regularly trained to use it in self-defense situations like the one he was in now. Frank hadn't had to shoot a person in years, but when he was in the military, he saw action and actually killed several people, both with a pistol and at close range. So now, faced with an armed and aggressive Mark La Valliere, the memories of that experience came flooding back to him, and he instinctively knew how he needed to act in this life-threatening situation. Therefore, with his hand in his pocket, Frank decided that he would now end this confrontation. And he decided that he would shoot La Valliere. His rage, death threats, gun pointing, and proximity to Frank created a situation that justified the decision to shoot to kill. Having made this decision, Frank quieted down La Valliere's ranting and rage. He calmed down and controlled his breathing. He focused on what he had to do: smoothly remove the pistol from his pocket, raise it to the firing position, aim at La Valliere, and quickly fire 2 accurate shots. All movements of the pistol had to be precise, and the entire process had to be completed in less than 3 seconds. Otherwise, La Valliere would likely return fire, and they would end up in a firefight, something Frank wanted to avoid. Focusing his gaze on La Valliere, Frank pulled a pistol from his pocket. It was a smooth extraction, just what he needed, but just as he was raising the gun to the firing position, 3 quick shots rang out behind Frank to the right. At the same instant, Frank saw La Valliere's body shake as the bullets hit him, and then he saw La Valliere collapse to the ground. Having recovered from the unexpected shots, Frank thought, "What the hell?" And, turning around, saw that the shooter was still aiming his pistol at Mark's body lying on the ground. Frank quickly pulled himself together and addressed the shooter. "I think you did it. You can put the gun down," Frank said. "He was going to kill you," the shooter said, lowering the gun to her side. "Yes, that's what he said," Frank answered and asked, "Who are you?" "I'm an off-duty cop and I work security here. the shooter told him as they quickly approached La Valliere. "Oh, good, well, I'm glad you're here," Frank said. "Yes, I'm glad I'm here too," she said. Frank and the security officer knelt next to La Valliere, who was alive and conscious, but groaning in pain from 3 gunshot wounds. "What's happened?" Mark moaned. "They shot at you." "Lie still," Frank told him. "Did they shoot me?" "Yes, you were shot," Frank said. "Who shot at me?" "I shot at you, Mark," the officer told him. Mark looked at the officer. "Marjorie?" "Yes, Mark," she said. "Oh my gosh, Marjorie, why did you shoot me?" La Valliere asked breathlessly. "Because you were going to kill this man," Marjorie told him. Mark was breathing heavily and losing blood. "Oh God, I'm in so much pain, please help me." "I called the ambulance doctors. They're already on their way. Stay still and hold on," Marjorie told him. La Valliere was breathing heavily. "I didn't mean to kill him. It's just a game," Mark said, catching air. "Pointing a gun and threatening a person is not a game," Marjorie told him. "Marjorie, you know this is a game," he told her in a weak voice. "Mark, how many times have I told you that your game will lead to you being killed?" she said in response. "I know, but it's just a game. It's just a game. I was just playing a game," he gasped. "Oh God, I'm so cold. Why am I so cold?" Then he looked at Frank and said, "Please, sir, I'm so thirsty. Please bring me some water." Frank turned and shouted to the audience to bring water for La Valliere. La Valliere was bleeding quickly, and Frank knew that even if the paramedics arrived right away, there was nothing they could do to save him because he had already lost too much blood. For a few more moments, La Valliere continued to beg for help, but then fell silent. He was unconscious from loss of blood. Then, after a few more minutes, his breathing stopped. Frank checked for a pulse, checked again, but there was none. He was no longer there. Mark La Valliere has died. It was already well after 11:30 at night when the police allowed Frank and Brooke to leave the restaurant and lounge. They and other witnesses to the confrontation and shooting were interviewed by police officers, detectives, special investigators, internal affairs officers, and even an assistant district attorney. Frank and Brooke testified about their contacts and involvement in Mark La Valliere's affairs, and Frank issued a separate statement supporting the off-duty police officer's decision to shoot La Valliere, and went on record saying she saved his life. But finally, after an evening that started with simply attending a birthday party and ended with them being involved in the murder of a local sports star, Frank and Brooke were returning home. They rode in silence for some time. Neither of them uttered a word. Finally, Brooke broke the silence. "Frank," she said. "Yes," he answered. "Are you disappointed that you didn't kill him?" she asked. Without a moment's hesitation, Frank answered, "Yes." Brooke thought about his answer and how his reaction was immediate and unconditional, and she heard the anger in his voice. Frank was denied satisfaction and was angry that the situation with La Valliere ended with a female security officer committing the murder. When Mark confronted them in front of the restaurant, Brooke knew without a doubt that this was now Frank Walker's game, and she knew that, most likely, it would not end well for Mark. La Valliere was a young star with a huge ego, a fiery temper, and a gun, whereas Frank Walker was a seasoned corporate operative who made his living by taking down powerful men and women, and he was furious that this grown man playing children's games had the audacity to try to steal his wife right in front of him, and La Valliere could not escape the consequences. Brooke was well aware that Frank was armed and knew that he had deliberately lured Mark into a situation where he would most likely kill him. Telling Mark that he had lost the game and calling him a loser was nothing more than bait, and of course, Mark fell for it, which sealed his fate. So either way, Brooke knew Mark La Valliere was a dead man before he even got out of his SUV. And, watching the confrontation between her potential lover and her husband, she was very upset because she was the one who caused Mark's death. If he had not chosen her, and if she had not agreed to go with him, he would still be alive. But for some strange reason, fate intervened and an off-duty officer shot and killed Lavalliere, innocently thinking he was saving Frank's life, but instead denying Frank the opportunity to make Lavalliere face punishment for trying to steal his wife. But she also saved Brooke from having to live with the knowledge that her husband killed Mark because of her. "Well, I'm glad you didn't kill him," she told him. "Why?" "Because it was better that the officer killed him." "Why?" Frank asked her. "Because we would be in trouble," she said. "You mean with the police?" "Yes, and with the media," she said. "Yes, if I had killed him, the police and the media would have tried to make a dirty story out of it, but it would have been a clear case of self-defense. He behaved inappropriately. He had a gun and pointed it at me. He threatened to kill me more than once, and he was only 3 meters away from me. So it would be a justifiable situation, self-defense, shoot to kill, whether the police and the media like it or not," he told her. "Yes, but the media would ask questions and analyze why you killed him and not wounded him," she answered. "Of course, it's their job to ask questions, make guesses and express critical opinions. But the fact is that he was armed with a deadly weapon and could have killed me even if he had been wounded. Therefore, for my own protection, self-defense, I would have no choice but to go for the stopping blow," he replied. "Oh," she said, thinking about what he had told her. "It will still be unpleasant in the media, even if I didn't kill him." "Some of the blame will be placed on me," Frank told her. "And they will put it on me," she said. "Yes, they will. So be prepared for the fact that they will come for us. Our lawyer will help up to a certain point, but only up to a certain point. You can be sure that the media will twist everything so that he was killed precisely because of you and me. There may be lawsuits and counterclaims, but don't worry, we can handle it. And we will emerge victorious. Because in the end, he seduced you, attacked us, and threatened me, so we are victims," Frank told her. Then he added, "But remember, he was a football star and a local celebrity, and here in our beloved South, football stars are considered gods, so according to the media, he is not guilty of anything. So just understand that for the next few days, all we will see and hear in the media is that poor Mark Lavalliere is dead. It will be reported that he was dancing with a woman and her jealous husband created a situation that resulted in him being killed by a guard. But eventually, the real Mark Lavalliere story will come out and the media will calm down, because they won't be interested in telling a story about a sports hero who has a hobby of picking up married women and taking them to his home for the night for sex. That's what I want. I want it all to just go away," she said. "It will happen eventually," Frank said. They drove in silence for a few more minutes, and then Frank asked, "Are you disappointed that you didn't go and have a night of fabulous sex with him?" Brooke was surprised and stunned by Frank's question. She glanced at him. "How dare you ask such a thing?" and began to say something, but then paused, thinking for a few moments about how to answer his question. Then, in an expressive voice, she said, "No, dear, of course not." This was the lie Frank expected to hear. A simple no would have been sufficient and believable, but the long pause and the dear, combined with the of course not, were too serious and confirmed what he suspected, namely that she was thinking about the loss of her fairy tale experience and wanted to hide his disappointment from him. But the way she looked at him, her voice and her choice of words gave her away. But Frank was not surprised, because he knew that Lavalliere had awakened in Brooke the idea that she was more than a wife, that she was a woman, and that it was her right to indulge in sex with a man who was not her husband. While they danced, Lavalliere talked to Brooke about sexual things that usually go unspoken, even between husband and wife. Brooke listened, and what he said sparked her imagination, and Lavalliere convinced her that the ideal way to experience these unspeakable things was with a partner with whom she could be completely free, open, and uninhibited, a partner with whom she has no emotional ties, a partner who knows the ways of debauchery and guides her in exploring the erotic side of her sexuality. So the seed of infidelity had been sown, and Frank knew it. He knew she was now open to sex with other men. Although she had previously promised that she would never let a man near her again, it was just a workaround to get out of the situation she was in. When Frank stopped her from leaving with Lavaliere, he heard it in her voice and saw it in her actions. Her behavior screamed, "I want to experience sex with another man." She just didn't want to pay for it today. But that's today. Knowing all this, Frank realized that he could never trust her again. And as they drove home, he wondered if he could live with his mistrust of her and accept the fact that one day she would have the opportunity to go with another man, and Brooke would most likely take advantage of this opportunity.